Welcome to No Alternative, Oswego's super goated music review show. I'm the delightful DJ Dash,
And I'm the heavenly invisible hand.
and we have an awesome show planned for you tonight. We'll start tonight off, as always, by rapid firing some new albums under the realm of alternative music for you. Fans of alternative rock are in for a real treat with Soulblind's new album, Red Sky Morning. The Hudson Valley Quartet builds on their awesome, fuzzy shoegaze sound right where they left off with their debut album and early releases. Punk band Military Gun dropped their new album, God Save the Gun, this Friday. For those of you who are looking for a fun and punchy new rock album, I'm sure this is your cut. Self-proclaimed dance-infused math rock band God Alone returns to the spotlight with The Beep Test. This genre-bending band delivers poetic lyricism coupled with vibrant instrumentation on their sophomore studio album.
Speaking of post-punk, we had an under-the-radar gem last week, that being Station on the Hill by Computer. With an aggressive edge and knack for experimentalism, I'm sure this band will make it big in the world of post-punk.
Now that we've got the sophomore albums out of the way, now it's time for a debut album. Australian post-punk band Dust released their studio album last Friday, presenting creative post-punk jams with noticeable influences from the London's windmill post-punk scene. Moving on to the metal stuff, progressive metalcore act Greyhaven is back with Keep It Quiet, an energetic release with plenty of heavy emotion in store for listeners. And perhaps the biggest metal album of all, technical thrash band Coroners return after 30 years with Dissonance Theory. This album picks up where the band left off 30 years ago with complex rhythms and intriguing riffs. Could this potentially be an Album of the Year contender? Well, that's for you to decide. One more release in store for today is the highly anticipated fifth album from Australian psychedelic one-man show, Tame Impala. Kevin Parker delves more into electronic and dance music here on this new album, with many of the lyrical themes dealing with familiar topics including internal struggle and change. That includes our lightning round of new albums. I'm sure there's at least something out there for you to enjoy. After the break, we'll return with our first album review of the night, after these messages.
Of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
I had to eat a raw egg on Chris's dormitory floor.
I currently don't have any federal pending charges.
You know what you never did? You never walked to Walmart, Chris. That's my co-host. This is for making me eat roast Pop-Tarts. It's showtime, Chris. Come on.
I want to be on the air for that. I got a couple things to say.
No.
Spin the wheel. But you got censorship.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to...
What's up, smell-o-vision watchers and an active TV magic? This microphone doesn't work because it's not plugged in. I don't know, whatever. Welcome back to No Alternative.
It's time we review a new album that came out earlier this year that many music fans have been raving about. as a potential album of the year, that being Lonely People with Power by Deaf Heaven. I'll start off, as always, with some background on the band Deaf Heaven. They were a band. They're a very awesome, very awesome band.
I promise we're not riffing right
Please,
now.
please.
Deaf Heaven is a pretty awesome band. I think they're pretty awesome. They originally formed in 2010 as a black metal duo, but eventually solidified into a quintet and have since evolved into one of the most important metal acts of the past decade and a half.
Thank you, Nate. Their 2013 album Sunbather practically invented the black gaze subgenre, which combined the crushing aggressiveness of black metal with the sort of fuzziness of shoegaze. Sunbather divided metalheads and critics upon its release, but the band asserted itself fully as a mainstay of metal with 2015's New Bermuda and 2018's Ordinary Corrupt Human Love, which saw a massive improvement in the band's songwriting. Following another polarizing release with 2021's Infinite Granite, which saw the band go in a softer dream pop direction, the band returned in full force earlier this year and dropped Lonely People with Power. Does it live up to all the raving? Let's find out. We'll start off with some of the singles on this album. Magnolia was the lead single. It's harsh, its tempo is blistering, and it's one of the shortest songs in Deaf Heaven's catalog, getting its point across at just around 4 minutes. Can you believe that? Measuring a band's songs for how short they are? It's usually the other way around. But anyways, it's a fantastic single. Heathen was the other single off of that album, featuring a quieter, dreamy section with clean vocals from George Clark. This heavily contrasts with the more aggressive black metal instrumentation that the band implements throughout the rest of the song. George Clark's shrill, screaming vocals have also improved considerably since the days of Sunbather and New Bermuda. On Heathen and other tracks off this album, his screaming vocals are much clearer to understand, as well as more poignant. Heathen is also short by Deaf Heaven standards, only around 5 minutes long, meaning that, like Magnolia, it's much easier to digest for new fans of the band, but you're also not really missing out on the Deaf Heaven magic. To sum it up, Heathen is one of my favorites on here. Aside from the singles, there is a long list of other highlights on the album. Amethyst is the soaring epic whose scale is on par with some of Deaf Heaven's classic tracks. The guitars on this track are just simply phenomenal, and the spoken word vocals at the beginning helped with painting that poetic beauty. There are also interludes on the album titled Incidentals, which provide that sort of grandiose concept album cohesion for the tracks. And like I said, gives the album a sense of symphonic grandeur. Doberman is a good example of this, with the transition from Incidental 1 and then the track itself, which is a thunderous and electrifying exposition into the album's themes. Revelator is another cut off of this that I really love. It's probably like the heaviest song off of this album, with ferocious riffs and blast beats that scream black metal in all caps. This track doesn't play around. The soul-crushing riffs stop in their tracks for a quiet, suspenseful interlude about halfway through the song before snapping straight back into it for its blistering conclusion. I'm going to be honest, I was straight up jump scared by the return of the music in that song. Like I actually flinched. Anyways, Winona is another long one that features really dense guitar layering and dreamy passageways between aggressive blasts within its complex song structure. The lyrics here are also incredibly raw and powerful, dealing with themes of inner disruption and self-image. The lyrics throughout this album, as a matter of fact, are really powerful on pretty much all of the tracks. They heavily revolve around themes of detachment and imbalance of power, as the title suggests, and also the internal struggles that seem to take place as a part of that. If there was any song off this album that I did come close to disliking, it would probably be The Marvelous Orange Tree. It starts off pretty promising as an album closer, but it ends up being pretty anticlimactic and simply just not as impactful as the other tracks off this album. In my opinion, Winona should have been the real climax, as it's much more overwhelmingly emotional. So talking about the album as a whole, this album honestly deserves the Metal Album of the Year praise it's been getting. It takes everything great about Deaf Heaven's sound and just pushes it to the max. And all the issues that I and others have had with Deaf Heaven in the past are practically non-existent here. The production is significantly improved, the soundscapes the album's employs are still engaging, and the emotional power of the lyrics is unparalleled for the band, save maybe for Sunbather. My favorite tracks off of here are Doberman, Heathen, and Amethyst, and I will be giving this album an 85 out of 100.
Coming up after the break, we'll be having me, myself, The Invisible Hand, talk about the brand new album by
Invisible
Rocket. The album is called R is for Rocket. Right after these brief messages, we'll be right back on No Alternative.
Say, President Stanley, whenever there's bad weather, who would you turn to?
I'd turn to Storm Team 10.
No, but you've got to say it like this. Storm Team 10. Say it with me. Storm Team 10.
If you like action, romance,
sister, if you're watching this,
and highbrow humor,
what surface is this?
Floor. Minch did not legitimately put his head in the toilet.
there's only one place to turn.
No!
Tune in to new episodes of
Oh, boy!
only on WTOP.
Welcome back to No Alternative, a super awesome music review show. This segment, I'll be reviewing the new album by Rocket. R is for Rocket. So essentially, Rocket's been on my radar for a while now, since about 2024. They're a LA-based rock collective, and they released one of the most impressive debut EPs in 2023. That EP was called Versions of You. It was on repeat for me when I discovered the band, as it captured the lead singer Alethea Tuttle's capabilities as a vocalist, and it also reinvented how I thought of a love song and how it could possibly sound. So Rocket's sound was more so, say, indie rock and slacker in nature before really reinventing their sound to be more alternative rock for R is for Rocket. Maybe this is them touring with the Smashing Pumpkins earlier in 2025, or the notoriety that they landed after getting an interview with the Rolling Stones. So upon release, I found that R is for Rocket really wants the listener to know that the band is leaning in the alternative rock direction. Songs like Take Your Aim and Wide Awake really dial things to 11 with this noise. And the shift of direction is welcome, and I kind of like it, but it feels like the vocal mix from Tuttle gets really buried down in the song. But I would just say that all the songs sound great on their own, but when you listen to them back to back like a normal record, I guess listening party, or how you listen to a record, it just doesn't work out that well. I found myself enjoying the singles off the album more than I did listening to the album as a whole, because I feel like I'm the opposite when it comes to how I listen to music. Some of the standout tracks to me were Number One Fan and 1 Million.
Awesome. Yes, I was hoping you'd say that. Number One Fan is a brilliant song. It's mellow and introspective, and its lyrics hit a little too close to home.
Yeah, Number One Fan almost feels like it could have been written by a bedroom pop artist, but the way that Rocket performs the song makes me wish I never had that thought. Number One Fan is about falling out with someone, getting back in touch with them after spending time away from one another. It's like this epic ballad, but the song is only like 3 minutes long, so it's like, how does it feel that way? But the slow drum performance and bright sounding piano and droning guitars really make the song great, while Tuttle's vocals are really just the cherry on top. I highly recommend the song if you're thinking about getting back together with your ex-partner after breaking no contact.
To interject briefly, I've listened to some of the tracks off of this album, and I really enjoyed what I heard. As I mentioned with earlier, is it 1 Million?
I think so. Yeah.
1 Million, I really liked that song. But Rocket has sort of this warm, uplifting indie rock vibe that I get from bands such as, say, Always or Crushed. I think Crushed I've talked about on here before. 1 Million perfectly exemplifies this sort of this warm, nostalgic sound paired with relatable lyrical themes. 1 Million specifically mentions a feeling of love that I've found myself in many times before.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money with that. 1 Million, in contrast, is about like wanting to be noticed. It feels like playing the long game in musical form. The song is definitely for people who are picked last for teams in gym class. The song is also for people who imagine futures in their head with other people who don't even have the courage to speak to them in the first place. It's not quite a song about yearning, but more so the thought that I'll always be there for you, waiting to be noticed. The guitars on the song are really great. They come out swinging on the track, and they just really ties it all together. Total, as always, has a phenomenal performance, and her vocals aren't buried in the song at all. Just on a limb here, I'm going to go out and give this album a 75 out of 100. There's some really great songs on Ours for Rocket, but compared to previous work, it sounds a bit muddy. I'm not against the direction that the band is taking, and I think this is a pretty solid first outing for a band somewhat new to the scene. I think I'd rather highly recommend listening to their EP versions of You before diving into Ours for Rocket, but all around, it's a refreshing take on rock. Rocket just didn't quite stick the landing on this record.
Yeah, I'd say I gotta say I do agree with that, Nate. So we are now going into another break, but coming up after the break, you may find yourself watching a review of a classic Talking Heads album right after these messages.
Get rid of all the questions. Error. Yeah, just put all that stuff in. Yeah, we went through 6, 5, error. 4, 3, 2, 1.
If only we had someone who could tell us what we should and shouldn't watch.
Well, do we have a show for you?
Who are you?
What are you doing in my bed?
On Be Kind and Rewind, we will go through and review all your favorite movie franchises.
And tell you which ones you should and shouldn't watch from the perspective of normal movie fans. Well, be sure to check out Be Kind and Rewind on WTOP 10.
You know, I never really knew how sports worked, but I guess that's why we're talking about music. So, what's up, music lovers? Welcome back to No Alternative, Oswego's alternative music show or whatever.
This segment, we're going to be taking a look at a legendary classic album by new wave band The Talking Heads, and that album is Speaking in Tongues. Me and Nate are super excited to talk about this album together, so let's get into it. So some background on the band first, for those of you who are living under a rock. Talking Heads were a legendary British art rock band that was active in the late 1970s and early 1980s, releasing an impressive string of masterpiece albums such as 77, More Songs About Buildings and Food, and Remain in Light, to name a few. These albums were renowned for their unique rhythmic mayhem, engaging song structures, and lyrics that'll keep any listener on the edge of their seat. 1980's Remain in Light is their most critically and commercially successful record, widely considered to be one of the defining albums of the 80s new wave scene. But, my friends, that is an album for another day. Today we are going to be talking about the album that came after it, Speaking in Tongues, released in 1983. Is it a classic Talking Heads album? Well, we both know the answer to that, but we're going to have all of you watch and find out.
So, with any critical acclaim for a previous album, it feels like the following album is always a mixed bag among fans and critics. That's generally how I feel about Speaking in Tongues compared to the band's other musical outings. Speaking in Tongues has a great musical range with many classics on the album, but it feels somewhat shallow compared to their previous work. A lot of fans, myself included, theorize the cleaner sound and mainstream acceptance of the Talking Heads is really due to MTV. Remain in Light was 1 year before the launch of MTV in 1980, MTV launching in 1981, and Speaking in Tongues in 1983 is not quite a cautionary tale of industry innovation as it is changing with times. You can look at a lot of older alternative acts that have changed their style or direction over the years as musical styles have faded in and out of relevance, or you can look back at things that were just kind of a in-the-moment style, like wearing gym shorts over sweatpants. Ask my dad about it. I don't think that the Talking Heads ever really sold out to any one trend, but were more so adapting to the industry, moving towards live performances and visual styles that MTV capitalized on in their early days. Part of what changed was the dulling of the edge that was present on earlier Talking Heads projects, a favor for more cohesive yet nonsensical songs that were more widely available to a wider audience. You can look at the success of songs like Burning Down the House or This Must Be the Place, both wildly different sounding songs from different sides of Speaking in Tongues that have seen great success. Speaking in Tongues makes each track feel contained before moving on to the next track, often being a completely different thought. I would say that there isn't one consistent theme among all the songs, more so that the album is about not making sense at all, a common theme among the Talking Heads' musical career.
Stop making sense.
Exactly. Speaking in Tongues follows this ideology very well and manages to keep a bouncy and groovy feel between all the tracks. Standout tracks for me are Moon Rocks and Making Flippy Floppy. Moon Rocks has this really alien atmosphere about it. It's kind of like you attended a prom on Mars and you got a ride from the Martian's parents and you really thought it was a good idea that you should try to make awkward small talk the whole way over with everyone in the UFO. It's got this really anxious rhythm. It's contrasted by the charismatic performance of lead singer David Byrne, and it's hard not to love. Making Flippy Floppy almost captures the feeling of like popping up your shirt collar for the first time and thinking you know all the rules. The song sounds as confused about itself as does the lyrical content. I would argue that maybe that's the point of the song, but Making Flippy Floppy is so infectious it's hard not to not want to sing along and contort your body in ways you thought were previously unimaginable. What are some standout tracks for you, in your opinion, Dash?
Well, I think I'm going to go with the singles here on this one. My favorites are Burning Down the House, Girlfriend is Better, and This Must Be the Place. Burning Down the House is such a catchy song. Everything about this track just pops out to me. If any of you have ever heard this song on the radio, you probably know what I'm talking about. From the instrumentation to David Byrne's vocals, this song is just an instant classic. Girlfriend is Better is also incredibly catchy, both rhythmically and melodically, with its sort of confusing, are you allowed to say that?
Let's skip over it. It's kind of got this, like, you know, we don't care energy about it.
Yeah, we don't care energy, which is reflected heavily in the lyrics. It's incredibly fun to listen to and sort of to just bounce along to. This Must Be the Place is probably my all-time favorite Talking Heads song. It It has the silly Talking Heads vibe, but it conveys it without the nervousness that most other songs by them employ. Tino Weymouth's bass playing on this track is also very compelling as a bass player. It's just a very warm and positive sounding song overall.
I think for Speaking in Tongues, Talking Heads really earns their accolades, scoring a 90 out of 100 on No Alternative. For fans of New Wave, Speaking in Tongues is a great way to start exploring the 80s.
As co-host of No Alternative and a huge Talking Heads fan, I approve of this rating. We'll be back right after the break.
If you like action, romance,
if you're watching this,
and highbrow humor,
surfaces this.
Floor. Minch did not legitimately put his head in the toilet.
There's only one place to turn.
No!
Tune in to new episodes of
Oh boy!
only on WTOP.
Look at the number of disasters in the U.S. Chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
I had to eat a raw egg on Chris's dormitory floor.
I currently don't have any federal pending charges.
You know what you never did? You never walked to Walmart, Chris.
That's my co-host. This is for making me eat roast Pop-Tarts.
It's showtime, Crits. Come on.
I want to be on the air for that. I got a couple things to say.
No.
Spin the wheel. But you got censorship.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to...
And I was telling them, like, I'm never drinking Mountain Dew again after this.
Oh, what's up, fantabulous music lovers? Welcome back to No Alternative,
Oswego's voice for alternative music. For our last segment of the night, we are going to enter our selections for our music diary, songs that we've been listening to consistently. I'll start off with my first pick of the week, which is Carrie by the band Isis, named after the Egyptian goddess, for those who don't know. And for those of you who likely don't know what this band is, probably most of you, Isis are a post-metal band that took the genre to new levels. Their music reminds me a lot of the vibes at Oswego. Aaron Turner's screaming vocals on this track sound like the souls of the perished, while the instrumentation and the blasting riffs are frightful.
Alrighty, this is my turn for the music diary. A track that I've been listening to a lot recently has been She's Leaving You by MJ Lenderman. It gets straight to the point and it doesn't hold back any punches. It's like a 2024 album that I can find myself revisiting a lot lately. It's got this really interesting musical flair and creativity derived from pedantic garage jam sessions. This music really reflects that vibe. It's the type of music you'd see someone wearing like a pair of jeans that could stand on their own, or wearing a shirt from a national park they've never been to. It's trashy in all the right ways. But I think that wraps it up for what we got here on today's episode of No Alternative. It's looking like we're a little low on time. So I think we're just gonna milk it and we're just gonna stare at the camera like we've been eating lead paint. Okay, we got 30 seconds, apparently. Let's toss. Wow.